Hello, boys and girls, moms and dads, aunts, uncles, all of the family out there. I'm Aunt Nikki of Your Story Hour. Uncle John, Aunt Carole, and I are going to be taking turns reading chapters from a book called Loony Coon by Sam Campbell. It's about a raccoon and friends. We figured during the social distancing time that it would be fun to have something to look forward to, so we're going to read you a chapter every day. And I'm on to chapter 2. Let's see what's happening to Loony Coon and friends. Chapter 2. Funny Business at Coony Castle. Though we passed by Coony Castle almost every day, it was a week before we saw any of the raccoons again. In the soft sand near the base of the tree were large and small tracks that told they were active. Perhaps there had been more plunks onto the moss by the high-diving Loony, followed by Andrea's rescue routine, but we did not witness them. One evening as we were passing the maple tree, I stepped close and listened. The cubs were in there all right, and the sounds I heard caused me to break into a subdued laugh. "What's happening?" asked Jenny, coming to me. "What are they doing?" "They're clerping." "They're what?" "Clerping." Jenny listened to the clerping going on within the tree and then looked at me for an explanation. "It's an odd combination of clunking and purring they do," I said. "I know of no other animal sound like it. Remember our first raccoon pets, Rack and Roon? They were brought to us so young their eyes were still closed. When they were hungry, they made that sound." "How in the world do they do that?" she asked. "Can you imitate it?" I shook my head. I am not good at imitations anyway, and I believe that clerping is the last thing I want to do. To make the clunking sound, a human being would have to draw in his breath. To make the purring sound, he would have to exhale. To attempt doing both at once, he would probably choke, and his tongue would finish in a figure-8 knot. "I never heard of such a word as clerping," Jenny said. "I invented it, though I don't expect my name to go down in history for that reason. Clerping isn't in the dictionary, but I know what it means." "I love clerping," Jenny laughed, pressing her ear close to the tree. "Do you suppose I dare peek in and see how they do it?" "Yes, let's have a look at them," I agreed. "It's as funny to see as to hear." We stepped up on the log and took turns looking down at the raccoons with the aid of our pen light. Andrea was not there. No doubt she was away on a hunting trip, for she must have food, and lots of it during the days when her family depends on her. Probably she had been gone for some time, for the sextuplets were famished. Coony Castle was filled with clerping. Jenny and I laughed aloud at their actions. All 6 noses were pointed up in the air. All 6 mouths partly opened, as if expecting a serving of dinner any minute. Our vaudeville show was interrupted by the arrival of Andrea. We did not hear her approaching, but suddenly she was standing right at our feet. "Pardon us, Andrea," said Jenny, backing away. "We've been watching your children put on a clerping chorus." Andrea didn't need to be told. She knew those sounds only too well. Quickly she went up the tree and into the hole. The clerping increased greatly at first, then subsided as feeding began. "That is the perfect way to have animals," I commented. "Meaning?" "Well, friendly enough so they will permit us to watch them, yet living in a wild, natural state. This is wonderful." As we walked away, Jenny endeavored to imitate clerping. The effort ended in a coughing spell. Then we tried cooperating. She clunked and I purred. Together, we gave a pretty good imitation of a baby raccoon. Here's a picture on the next page. You can kind of see it. Coony Castle and its occupants were the center of our interests as the season advanced. Yet there were many other friendly creatures about the sanctuary. Salt and Pepper, our pet porcupines, were seen once near the raccoon tree. Later, Salt appeared at our cabin and stayed for several days. Cheer, our red-winged blackbird, was back. His mate was nesting on a little swampy island in the same low shrub they had used in previous years. He perched on our feeding station, giving his happy song, puffing up his feathers in a true blackbird style, displaying proudly the bright red spots that graced his wings. Fatty Patty Sausage, our pet woodchuck, was living in a hole under our front steps. She was still a bit thin after her long hibernation, but from the way she was eating, we had no doubt that she would soon regain her blimp-like figure. Zipper, the white-tailed deer, who had been our pet fawn a year ago, often came within sight and greeting distance. Occasionally she swam over to our island and came up to our cabin door to get tasty bites Ginny kept ready for her. The beautiful red fox we called Zowie was seen in remote parts of the forest. Our pet chickadees and nuthatches were back, pestering us from morning to night, just as we like them to do. They perched on our shoulders and our heads and always seized the moment when my arms were filled with wood or some other heavy load to beg for a bite of seeds or peanut crumbs I kept in my pocket. And I, softy that I am, usually dropped whatever I was carrying and held forth an offering in my open hand, all for the thrill of feeling their little feet on my fingertips. Often I pretended more annoyance at these lovely little brothers than I felt. Once, when pestersome Pete, the white-breasted nuthatch, flew up, giving his unmusical nasal "nee-yay," I was walking along with a large log on my shoulder. My predicament made no difference to him, so he kept pace with me, flying from tree to tree, and saying in his chirping way, "How about a little handout? Why are you wasting your time carrying trees around when you could be feeding me?" "You feathersome pest," I blurted out at him. "Why don't you make your own living? Go on and get some larvae or some bugs, and don't be so lazy. You're just no good, that's all. You're the kind of a fellow who settles down to do nothing, squawking that the world owes you a living. And you think the world ought to drop it right in your lap, if you had one. You're a bum. That's what you are, just a bum." While this futile chatter continued, I was reaching into my pocket for tidbits to share with this beloved little bird. The log was out of balance and cut into my shoulder, but there wasn't a good place to put it down. The ground on which I stood was uneven. My back ached from the heavy load I was carrying. "I suppose you're satisfied at the misery you're causing me," I ranted on at Pete, who was now about an arm's length from me in the crotch of a small balsam tree. "You would make a wonderful slave driver. You don't care how much trouble you cause just as long as you get what you want. Well, here!" And I thrust a handful of cracked corn and peanut bits towards him. But Pete made no move to take the offering. He ceased his nee-yay, nee-yay, and stared as though dumbfounded at my words. I forgot the log and my aching shoulders and extended my hand further towards him. Still he did not move. I began to get worried. "Now, Pete," I said in warmer tones, "here it is. Come and get it. That's the stuff you like so well, you know." Pete just sat and looked at me. I moved my hand up until it was within a foot of his beak. Still no response. Always before he had been so bold in his feeding, flying to my hand without hesitation, carrying one morsel after another away to tuck under the bark of trees. "Pete, I didn't mean it," I began apologizing. "I was only joking. You aren't a bum. You're a wonderful bird. A wonderful bird." "What's all this jabbering about?" Ginny had come up behind me. "Why, look at Pete. I was joshing him about being a nuisance and a pest, and now it looks as though he took it seriously. Come on, Pete," I said to him pleadingly. "Do a little forgiving. I'm sorry. I apologize all over the place. I'm on my knees. I'm eating humble pie. Please just take one crumb. You're breaking my heart." Ginny coaxed and I coaxed, but the nuthatch didn't give in easily. Now my hand was within 3 inches of his beak, and the log seemed to increase its weight threefold. My back ached, my shoulder ached, and my neck did too, but still Pete held out. He stretched one wing, then the other. He scratched back of his ear. At last, when I had reached the limit of my endurance, and apparently he thought I had been punished enough, he calmly hopped over to my hand. There, with great deliberation, he selected the largest morsel present and carried it away, calling back, "Yay!" "Now will you learn to be careful with your language?" Jenny asked reprovingly. "You hurt his feelings." I started away with my log, my back and shoulders now numb. "I'll never call him a bum again," I promised, "even though he is." Come back tomorrow for Chapter 3.